we expect lower PMP estimations. So, why should South African engineers care? Firstly, there is proven potential with known direction of research. We should always strive to better our understanding of nature and better our design processes. Imagine CAD never came along and road engineers such as myself still had to draw alignments on paper. If we can research methods to improve accuracy, save time, or save money which can be reallocated elsewhere, we must take it. And then secondly, infrastructure cost savings and maintenance. As the former SAICE President Brian Downey pointed out after the 2019 KZN floods, South Africa's infrastructure struggles because maintenance funding competes with new projects. We need PMP methods that get it right. So we build smart, resilient infrastructure that we can afford to maintain. Otherwise, as I said earlier, you circle right back to infrastructure failure. This research is just a first step to work towards making this the new standard for PMP estimation in South Africa. We need to refine the statistical method by re-evaluating outlier treatment and recalibrating the frequency factor to get to the correct results. We then need to expand the research to more stations, newer data, and testing hybrid methods, combining methodological methods and the statistical methods. Without action, our design standards are not optimized. South Africa deserves a PMP estimation method that balances safety and cost, one that works for our economy instead of against it. To finish off, extreme rainfall will happen again, whether we're prepared or not. Continuing to rely on outdated methods puts our infrastructure, economy, and lives at risk. As Brian Downey said, maintenance is invisible until tragedy strikes. We need to adopt smarter design approaches that focus on accuracy, cost effectiveness, and resilience. My research identifies a critical gap in how we estimate PMP in South Africa. By refining our approach now, we can build infrastructure that can not only withstand extreme events, but also allows us to maintain and extend its lifespan, creating lasting value for our communities and economy. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, so now we're just going to allow for 5 minutes for questions. So 2 minutes for questions. So yeah, if anybody has questions on his research, please bring them forward.
Yes.
Can I ask you, you said that our infrastructure, what happens when we use the wrong PMP? So I'm asking you this question. Do you think our infrastructure failed because of using the wrong PMP or because we used the wrong return period?
So that's a very good question. PMP is just one of the estimates that go into. Now, when you design something and the return period, that would generally be up to someone's deciding. But if you calculate the PMP correctly, and that's going to be sort of regardless of the return period, because that should be the theoretical maximum in any case. So this sort of bypasses the need to have a very accurate return period, if I recall correctly. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Could you please repeat the question once they ask, just for the online guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
So did you consider climate change considerations in your new PMP method?
Okay, so the gentleman has asked me if I've considered climate change in my PMP estimation method. So one of the assumptions of the statistical method is the assumption of stationarity, that the data should not change. Now, luckily, very recent research by Joshua Kibi from Stellenbosch University actually analyzed 120 years of South African rainfall, and he came to the conclusion that there wasn't a significant increase in variability or the amount of rainfall. So as far as that is concerned, the assumption of stationarity holds. But it's very important to keep that in mind going forward, because it might change and then you might need to adapt for it when you design new statistical methods. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. We'll do one more question if there is, and then we'll be able to proceed. Yes, Daniel?
Sure. Are there any limitations? The size of the catchment area. So for this research, we only focused on point rainfall with rainfall stations. This doesn't need to focus, sorry, to repeat the questions, the gentleman asked if we have any limitations in terms of the size of catchment areas. Now, whether that's very important for things like the hydrological methods, such as the rational methods and the SDF methods and all of those kind of things. As far as PMP, this research's PMP estimation goes, this was for point rainfall. So the maximum amount of rainfall that will go to a specific point. All right. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, guys. So could you give our speaker another round of applause? Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. Microphone.
So, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that was a very good presentation. And speaking of rainfall, I don't know if you were here for it, but yesterday Joburg did have some very extreme conditions which might be helped by our research. So next up on our list, we have Uzair Mohammed coming from the University of Johannesburg. So a slight home ground advantage, but let's see what he has to present for us. Could you give him a round of applause as he comes up?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As I've been introduced, my name is Uzair Mohammed, and I stand before you on behalf of the University of Johannesburg's Department of Civil Engineering Technology. Our final year capstone design project focuses on developing and assessing our practical, industry-ready skills by requiring us to execute a simulation design project. In the limited time I have today, I intend on taking you through the stages of our project. I will provide a glimpse of the work my fellow group members compiled and present my own designs of the structural elements of a typical house, all of which have been captured in detail in the design reports at each of the project stages. As a group of 6, we began our capstone journey by forming a company. This required a capability statement and a company profile. Urban Access Consulting Engineers is driven by a commitment to quality, efficiency, and client satisfaction in the services we provide. Our company consists of 4 core departments as outlined on screen, and each department is led by individuals who are well versed in their respective sub-disciplines of civil engineering. The project kicked off with a Urban Access Consultant Engineers were appointed by the City of Ekurhuleni to provide civil and structural engineering services for the proposed Vredebos Township development in Boksburg. The scope of work included the design of a township layout, roads and stormwater networks, sewer and water reticulation, and a structural design of a typical house. The project kicked off with a desktop study of the site. With the use of online tools like the city's GIS, Google Earth Pro, GPS Visualizer, and Civil 3D, a desktop land survey was conducted to determine the topography and boundaries of the site. This information informed the design of the engineering infrastructure and the township's layout. This mixed-use development, located on the remainder of portion 34 of Vlakplaats 138, will include 200,000 square meter stands, hospitals, schools, community centers, and a community sports precinct. The residential stands were positioned on the higher line areas of the site, and public facilities were placed along the looped mobility roads. Moving on to the engineering infrastructure. In the absence of my fellow group members, I will attempt to provide an overview of each of their designs. The access and mobility roads have been designed using Civil 3D. The mobility roads under consideration were classified as minor arterials with a design speed of 70 kilometers an hour and a road reserve of 30 meters. They connect existing higher capacity arterial roads to the smaller access roads, which have been designed with road reserves of 14 to 20 meters and design speeds of 40 kilometers an hour to 50 kilometers an hour respectively. For stormwater, the objective was for the post-development runoff to be similar to the existing pre-development runoff, while reducing the risk of flooding by routing the water away from the township's infrastructure. The system makes use of a retention pond and was designed and analyzed using Civil 3D and HydroFlow storm sewers extension. The design followed the standards set out in the Red Book Section L and the Sandrail Drainage Manual. The water supply network seeks to provide potable water to the Vredebos Township. Supply will be taken from the recently expanded Dawn Park Reservoir. The system was modeled and analyzed using EPANET and the WaterGem software. For the sewer network, it comprises of a gravity sewer system and the main line which feeds to the Erkuleni Vlakplaats wastewater treatment facility. The houses that will make up the Vredebos Township will typically be this two-story home. Designed in collaboration with a UJ architecture student, the exterior showcases sleek lines, concrete slabs, and mono-pitched roofs, with a spacious two-car garage and an inviting double-volume entrance. Inside, the layout caters for a family of 4 with a 3-bedroom home, with 3 bedrooms, with the primary room being on the upper level for added privacy. Large windows fill the home with natural light, while the open-plan living and dining area flows into an outdoor entertainment space and modern kitchen. The ground floor spans 300 square meters, while the upper floor covers 136 square meters, leaving ample space on the 1,000 square meter stand for a landscape garden, a pool, or extra structures. The structural system that makes the home functional and safe consists of a concrete roof and floor slabs, which are supported by brickwork, columns at the entrance, and a raft foundation. This raft foundation choice was based on the findings of the geotechnical investigation that highlighted the presence of dolomite in the underlying bedrock. The 250 millimeter concrete raft slab spans between a series of 300 by 400 millimeter ground beams and is specifically designed to accommodate the formation of dough lines and sinkholes by being designed to span unsupported distances. Additionally, a 2-meter wide apron will be cast around the building to direct storm water away from the structure and limit the amount of water ingress. The process followed for the design of the structured elements of the building included the modeling of the building on ProConsumo software for the analysis of the building's loading. The analysis results were used for the design and reinforcement detailing of the various structural elements and compared to the calculated allowable limits. These limits included the deflection limits of the slab as well as the bearing capacity of the soil and reactions on the foundation. The completed design structural drawing pack includes foundation and slab layouts, column and staircase details, and reinforcement plans with bending schedules. To conclude, our capstone design project has provided a comprehensive, industry-focused experience, equipping us with practical skills in civil and structural engineering through research, collaboration, innovation, and rigorous design processes. We have developed a township plan that meets technical standards. I thank you for your time and attention.
Just because I understood what was going on here and it's something that I do on a day-to-day. So, yeah, guys, again, 2 to 3 minutes for questions, and Jose, please just remember to repeat the question for the guys online once you get it. So does anybody have questions regarding this?
Okay, look, unfortunately, as I said, the transportation was handled by a different member of my group, so I won't be able to answer that question right now.
All right, does anybody else have a question?
Okay, so it caters for. Okay, so the question was what population the township caters for. It caters for 200,000 square meter residential homes. The population would be 800 residents, and then we've got the additional community facilities and stuff. I don't have the exact number for you right now. Yes, middle income. It's supposed to be like a midstream's copy. Yeah, It's not for low income, it's more for your upper class, yeah. And the reason for that was because the structural design would have been too simple had it been a normal low-cost housing. Yeah.
Given the ground conditions that you have in Dolomite, etc., what impact do that have on the unit cost of the infrastructure?
Okay, so the costing component hasn't been factored. So the question was, what impact did the ground conditions have in the costing component? The costing component was not factored in yet, but it would definitely have an impact, especially on the treatment of the soil, as well as your concrete works in being a raw foundation instead of your normal strip footing.
Do we have any more questions? Yes.
Did you consider 2D analysis when doing your designs for the house, or was it just based off of the finite element analysis?
It was just finite element analysis. The question was whether 2D analysis was considered during the design of the house. A lot of emphasis was put on using software instead of what we assessed in the other modules of 2D analysis and so on.
We'll take time. We'll take one more question if there is, and then we'll be able to proceed to our next one. Does anybody else have a question? No. So thank you very much, Izzy. Let's give him another round of applause. So now, before we go to our 5 to 10 minute comfort break, I'll be presenting our next speaker who has home ground advantage as well as is coming in as the title holder for the SAICE IP Showdown. We have Wits University coming to present, and from Wits we have Monty and Bandile. So. Could you help me put it back on?
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, I am Monty Tawakare, and with me here is we will be presenting our research on the environmental impacts and benefits of substituting coal with biochar. As can be seen from this chart, South Africa relies heavily on coal for electricity generation. The concern of using coal is that it is a non-renewable resource, and the utilization of this resource has negative social and environmental impacts. Negative environmental impacts include land degradation, habitat destruction, and pollution. South Africa is the #1 biggest air polluter in the country, with sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, and oxides of nitrogen being the top pollutants. Globally, Eskom is also one of the biggest air polluters, making it in the top 3 for sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen emissions, and in the top 5 for particulate matter emissions. While a lot gets said about finding alternatives for coal, the same is not true for augmenting or substituting coal at existing power plants. Potential substitutes for coal include, but not limited to, biochar, charcoal, plant and algal biomass, waste biomass, and petroleum coke. The extent to which these materials may offer environmental benefits and be compatible with existing power plant infrastructure varies.
For our research, our aim was to investigate whether biochar could be a viable substitute for coal in these power plants. Now, biochar is essentially a lightweight flake residue made up of carbon and ash, which is produced through a process called pyrolysis. To achieve this aim, we set a specific objective. We produce biochar from sewage sludge, wood chips, and a combination thereof. We characterize the produced biochar and analyze its thermal properties, which we then compare to those of the conventional coal used in the Eskom's coal-fired power plants. In this investigation, biomass was prepared by drying for pyrolysis, and during the pyrolysis stage, we experimented with 3 different temperatures to assess their impacts on biochar properties. We applied a slow heating rate and longer residence time to allow for a gradual decomposition and a complete conversion of the organic material. Bomb calorimeter, process meta-analysis, and thermogravimetric analyzer were critical tests in determining the calorific value, carbon and ash contents, moisture retention, and the sulfur content of the produced biochar. Now, moving on to our results of biochar analysis, mass yield Myers tells us how much of the original material remains as solid residue after pyrolysis, while energy yield reflects how much energy content is retained. The graphs here show that the biochar mass yield decreases with an increase in pyrolysis temperature, while for energy yield, there is a significant drop in energy for sewage sludge at high temperatures, while wood chips, considered among the best across all temperatures, the mixture, on the other hand, had a steady decline in energy yield. Moving on to bulk density, we found that the bulk density of biochar decreases with an increase in pyrolysis temperature, and additionally, the degree of moisture retention of biochar samples increased at high temperatures. Furthermore, we found that the sulfur content of biochar decreases with an increase in pyrolysis temperature, and additionally, the calorific value, which is the amount of energy produced by biochar, increased at high temperatures.
After conducting TGA, a TGA curve such as the one presented is obtained. This is the plot of the weight loss of the sample versus temperature throughout the analysis. The moisture content was measured as the weight loss at 110 degrees Celsius, the volatile matter as the weight loss between 110 and 900 degrees Celsius, and the ash content as the weight loss after an isothermal hold at 900 degrees Celsius. The fixed carbon content was determined by difference, subtracting from 100 the moisture content, volatile matter, and ash content. It was found that for the same pyrolysis temperature, all three biochar types exhibit a similar trend of weight loss throughout the analysis, with the wood chips derived biochar exhibiting a higher weight loss, as shown in orange. This trend was consistent throughout all the pyrolysis temperatures. Lastly, TGA was conducted on a coal sample that was obtained from a mine that supplies ESCOM with coal. The results from TGA show that the volatile matter decreases with an increase in the pyrolysis temperature, while the ash and the fixed carbon content increase with an increase in the pyrolysis temperature. And it was also found that a significant change in a measured parameter occurs between the pyrolysis temperature of 300 and 450 degrees Celsius. To assess the performance of biochar, these charts compare the ratios of various biochar parameters relative to that of coal. The chart on the left compares pollution-related parameters, namely the ash, sulfur content, and the volatile matter. Here, a ratio lower than the coal target line signifies a better alternative in the sense of lessened pollutions. And the chart on the right focuses on energy and carbon-related parameters. Here, a ratio higher than the coal target line signifies a better alternative. It was found that several biochar samples, more especially those produced at higher pyrolysis temperatures, do perform better than coal with respect to these parameters. These trends highlight biochar's potential to lower emissions while maintaining competitive energy efficiency, supporting its role as a sustainable coal substitute. Although wood chips derived biochar outperforms the other two types, sewage sludge as a biomass is suggested for biochar production because this biochar still meets the criteria of being a better alternative than coal.
Furthermore, using sewage sludge presents a more environmental sustainable solution because not only does this help address the mentioned environmental impacts from ESCOM's coal power plants, it also addresses the sewage sludge management issues faced by the South African water treatment plants, where sewage sludge ends up being disposed into the environment. Now, even when this disposal meets the standards of disposal, it still represents a linear economy. So this alternative redirects the sludge into power generations, creating a circular economy. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, guys, so like I said, home ground advantage. Okay, so can we settle down now so we can get into the questions? So does anybody have questions for our two presenters?
Got a quick question. So, with the sewage sludge, I assume we don't know the makeup of it, what material constitutes it and whatnot. Would that present an issue when you're going to the large-scale manufacturing of biochar? Is that something that needs to be looked at, or yeah?
Wait, can you please repeat again?
My question is whether you've considered or whether you know whether the fact that sewage sludge is almost never the same thing, it constitutes different things. Is that going to be a problem once you want to get it ready for the mass production of biochar?
Oh, so the question is, since sewage sludge has greater variability based on its composition, will that be a problem when you scale it up for production, right? So to answer your question, yes, indeed, sewage sludge has a great variability, but that variability can be reduced by implementing standards on the different types of methods to produce the biochar. As we showed in pyrolysis, there are different conditions which can be kept constant so that you can have a certain end result. So those standards and guidelines will set out to help reduce the variability. It's like similar with timber in construction. Timber is a natural element. It has great variability, but it's graded into certain grades to help reduce that variability. So even with the biochar that is produced, we can then grade it in different grades. It's like with the coal, there's different types of grades with the coal, right? So that also addresses the variability.
So the question is, did we look at the cost implications or only focus on the environmental impact? So yes, we did look at the cost implications of producing biochar. Essentially, the way our suggestion is that biochar is produced in the sewage sludge, in the wastewater treatment plants. Now, initially, depending on how scale or how massive your production will be, initially you're going to have a setback on the amount, but with years, as years go by, the biochar itself will help sustain, because biochar, when producing biochar during pyrolysis, you get syngas or biogas, which can be used as an energy input to the system that produces biochar. So in fact, in the longer run or in a short period of time, you're going to break even with the cost, and in time, you're going to make profit. So yes, we did look at the cost implications of producing biochar together with the environmental impacts.
Do you have any other questions? All right, guys, so can we give our presenters another round of applause? All right, guys. So now we're going to go for a 10-minute comfort break before we proceed, just so you guys can take it all in and try and understand the very new concepts. Because what you've learned here, you didn't learn in class, guys. So let's just do a 10-minute comfort break. Yeah. Well done, man. That was good. That was good. I should have done this now.
No, so it's not for now.
Yeah.
It's for prop students. So there are students that are here and they are compulsory to be here.
Okay.
So we just tell them that they need to go and then register for prof students.
Prof students.
Professor students.
So they know.
Yeah.
So they know.
So prof additional students need to make sure that
Okay.
they fill out this.
Adisola.
Adisola.
Adisola. Okay. And then the other register? Alrighty, alrighty. Perfect. It breaks, yes. No, that's good, that's good. Prof. Adisola. Happy birthday. So how's it going? All good in yourself?
Doesn't help to complain.
Sorry?
Doesn't help to complain.
Yeah. How's the judging going?
Morning again.
Yeah. Some interesting topics, yeah. Interesting, and this year they all seem very practical, you know, in the sense that they're all very applicable. Yeah. That sometimes there's a lot of like technical topics that we can't see how they'll get into industry, but these ones are very practical topics. So I know. I have no idea. You see, I realized as I was saying bottoms, I looked at the paper and I was like, where are the bottoms? You need to tell me because I also don't know. I have no clue where the bottoms are. I think there's an error there. So, all right. Hey, leadership. It's still going good. Hey, any notes for me while any notes, any fun? Hey. You didn't say it when you spoke to me, Jay. You only say it now that it's here. No. You tell him just stand over there so I don't break my neck. No, but guys, I'll see you. We're doing good. How are you? Even pushing time, I'm hungry, guys. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Yes. Exactly. Oh yeah. They don't need like a database of names, Jay, where someone can just type their name, it ticks if they are. If they're not, it says no, you're not, you know? Yeah. They should just come bring proof of registration. Could have collected, yeah. Exactly, that's what it is. It's no, it's tough, yeah.
Let's maximize it. In that, I think if you mention it, the powers that be.
The powers that be.
Appreciate.
Okay, maybe even for the prizes I'll ask. Are you see your membership before for those questions I'll be like I can't give prizes to non-members. Maybe I'll do questions. Yeah, I'll do questions. I'll be like to get a prize you need to be a member, guys, to get that membership. Yeah. Exactly. Without anything. Exactly. Let me hustle marketing for prizes now. Yes, Miss McCain. Miss McCain. I know your surname. Why wouldn't I know your surname? Why wouldn't I know your surname? I know your surname. I was saying, are we going to ask questions at the end just to see if people are focused? Like, are we going to ask one for each topic? And then if I ask, do I have prizes? If I ask. We don't have prizes, no? These are all accounted for. Oh, yeah. Where? How am I doing, guys? Any pointers? Any pointers? I'm fine. Of the we are ahead of schedule, but they should be back in 3 minutes. Because I said it at 25. Half past 4. Because the rest of the program is 3 speakers, eh? Oh, so we will be. We will be. Photo op. Yeah, I'll tell them at the end. And you know what else I realized? I don't have their topics. I thought they would be here. like the topics. I thought they were going to be with the name. So then I was like, I was like, No, I think it's fine. Let them introduce their own topic. Yeah, because yeah. Like a projector. Oh, I thought the projector was it. Hey. Hey. I was like, what you came with a projector? Is she gonna Mr. President. Yeah. How are we doing, Mr. President?
All the judges.
Ah.
I said to them, their role is to ask questions.
Yes.
Number one. Then the rest will follow.
Then the rest will follow. Because I don't think the judges will have an opportunity to ask. They'll give comments, closing remarks, but not questions. So this is the judge's turn to ask questions.
You can see why I was fired as a judge. Now I need to play the impartial role.
And tell them, hey guys, make sure. So let's see. Let's see. I'm sure it'll be good. Hello, so how are you? I'm great. I'm great. How have you been? I saw you outside, and then I was like, I should come visit you.
Yeah, we need to catch up. Eh?
We do.
Yeah. Because I was saying to Gary,
Yes, Mr. Standard.
to say, you know what? If you look at what you guys are doing,
Yes.
we should be taking along. You know, because now we've got
Yes.
But we'll sit down because I noticed when you're doing a presentation, there are some things, you know, where
They could be.
yes,
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's talk about it. Yeah, no, and I agree. And I was also speaking to them now, where they were like, this is an opportunity for us to get members, people to sign up, fix their memberships as well, and then just speak more FLP related stuff. But how have you been, Andy?
Hi, nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good.
Are you well? That's good.
Yes.
And you're ready to, oh, you're judging
Oh,
already?
yeah.
You've been judging.
I did my free homework last night.
Also, you already knew. You're coming here to confirm.
Yeah, I'm just confirming.
That's what PhD students do.
Research. Even checked on LinkedIn. What's this one doing now? What's this one doing? You see? What's this one doing?
Yeah, so it's just confirming today.
Yeah, just confirming, hearing them speak. No, that's good. We're starting now in one. This is the time, yeah. Let me actually try call people. Guys, we're starting now. 10 minutes are up. We're starting now, guys. We're starting now, guys. We're starting now, so you can go in, yeah. Madam, Mr. President. I'll keep it in my pocket for you. Hello, Victor Wine. You're Victor on the original. I came after.
Yeah, you can.
I came after. I'm good.
Who you with me?
I'm working with SAICE. So I'm a structural engineer with SAICE. I'm not sure if you know of them. Yeah, SAICE. And yourself, the structural engineer?
No, I'm transport.
Transport for? With SMEC, yes. I actually said it in the...
Okay, let's go.
Just reminded people when I have take a question that they
Repeat the question.
just tell us.
When you get a question, repeat the question. Oh, yeah. We're back in, guys. People are still around. All right, guys, can we settle? All right, guys, can we start settling? Yeah. All right, guys, I believe that there's a register going around. So has everybody seen this register and signed it? And if your name isn't there, can you just add it to the register? Has anyone not received it yet? Yes, and then also from Wits University, I believe there are prof students. There's a set of students that are here by instruction of, by Prof. Adishola, yeah. Yes, please.
SAICE is expecting that you fill in
Oh, now everyone. Yes, guys, so I'm going to start sending the list around. And then, yeah, so as we carry on, could you just fill it in? I also want CPD points. All right, guys, so next up, we have our presenter from the University of Pretoria, which is where I'm from as well, by the way. Rachel van Zyl, could you please come and take them away?
Thank you. Oh, what's the clicker? That one. Imagine a world where every drop of rain on your roof is captured and conserved, maximizing one of South Africa's most precious resources. But what if the percentage volume of this harvested rainwater doesn't only depend on the characteristics of your roof, but also the unique properties of each rainfall event? Today, I'm excited to present the findings of my study aimed at determining the effectiveness of a pressurized rainfall simulation system in determining roof runoff coefficients used in rainwater harvesting practices. The main aim of my investigation was to determine the influence of rainfall properties, such as intensity and duration, on roof runoff coefficients used in practice on a daily basis. But in order to vary these rainfall properties, I needed to construct a rainfall simulator. Typically, rainfall simulation is used in soil erosion studies, and there is a lot of research on this application. I adapted this methodology to a roof runoff investigation. I constructed my simulator indoors with an initial target area of 1.5 by 1.5 meters. This pressurized system made use of 4 different size nozzles, as you can see there, and as you can see here in the front, each intended to simulate a different intensity rainfall event. According to literature, any simulation needs to be tested against these 3 criteria, being intensity, uniformity, and drop size, to ensure that the rainfall produced by the simulator falls within natural ranges, as well as ranges set by other pressurized simulators constructed in the past. I had to do this before I moved on to what I call the rainfall runoff testing, where I calculated my runoff coefficients. Here is a short clip of my rainfall simulator in action. I constructed it inside our concrete curing room, so alongside the curing baths you just saw in the background, we basically have a big shower. In hindsight, I should have definitely installed some towel rails, as I was constantly soaked throughout testing, as you can imagine. Firstly, for intensity, I set up a grid of rain gauges in order to measure the intensity at different pressures. After manipulating the pressure, I found an intensity that matched each nozzle's classification title. Although these intensities were on the higher side, they did fall within ranges set by other pressurized simulators. Next, for uniformity, I set up a 7 by 7 grid of collection points in order to calculate a CU, or coefficient of uniformity value. This value is typically used by farmers to assess the uniformity of the irrigation systems. As you can see, the CU value for the light nozzle was below 80 and therefore inadequate. Additionally, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, I created these 2D distribution plots to better understand the uniformity of each nozzle in a more visual sense. To combat the low CU value for the light nozzle, I decided to remove the outer perimeter of collection points due to the circular spray area of a nozzle. As expected, the CU value increased for all 4 intensities, deeming them now all adequate. But just looking at the graphs, I decided to move this now scaled down target area to a location on the graph that was most uniform in color. However, after doing so, some of the CU values actually decreased. Although they were still adequate, they did decrease. This proves exactly what they say in literature about CU values, that they shouldn't be used in isolation. I therefore introduced another parameter, being the range between the most and least intense point within the so-called optimal space, and that proved to decrease, indicating they were more optimal placements for the target area. Next, for the raindrop size distribution. Now for this, I used the very, very interesting flour pellet method. This method uses, believe it or not, cake flour to determine the diameter of my raindrops. It involves filling various pans with just 2 centimeters thick flour, exposing the pans to the rain for about 3 seconds before covering it. Now, as soon as that raindrop hits the flour with enough speed, the flour coats the raindrop, maintaining its form. You can then place these pans in the oven for 24 hours, and the resulting mixture, the raindrop flour mixture, has now formed hard pellets, which I actually have some here with me in a little bag today. Then you can send this mixture through a series of sieves in a sieve analysis in order to plot a raindrop size distribution. Now, of course, when the laboratory staff saw me using baking flour on the very same day they saw me using the ovens, you can imagine their disappointment when they found out I wasn't actually baking them a cake. Just for the results, the graphs down below show 3 different locations. I placed these flour-filled pans just at 3 different color variations on the graph to get a full range of the raindrop sizes being produced. The results in the top right are skewed a bit to the smaller end of the range. However, they fell within the natural range of raindrops and were deemed acceptable. Finally, my simulator passed all 3 tests after some adjustments, and I was able to move on to calculating my runoff coefficients. As you can see, the equation is very simple: runoff over rain. But in order to measure these 2 parameters, I needed to construct 2 different elements. Firstly, for the runoff, I constructed my roof with a gutter and downpipe. The dimensions of this roof were found during the uniformity testing as described earlier. Next, for the rain, now this is the total volume of rain on the roof in any given test. I constructed a rain box. Typically, one would use a singular rain gauge placed within your rainfall area to get your intensity, and then use the dimensions of your roof to find the total volume. However, looking at the uniformity graph for the moderate nozzle, for example, placing a singular rain gauge within this rainfall area could severely over or underestimate the actual amount of rain on the roof. Therefore, I came up with the idea of the rain box that had inner dimensions the same size as the roof's dimensions, as well as what felt like 1,000 layers of silicone and varnish in order to adequately waterproof this box. Finally, for my results, I plotted runoff coefficients for 4 different intensities at 4 different durations. As you can see, there is a discernible trend between the heavy, intense, and light nozzles, this being the trend. However, the 2-minute moderate duration test didn't quite conform to the same trend. I decided to repeat this test and actually received the exact same result. The coefficients are on the higher side in the graph here. Typically, we are sitting between 0.85 and 0.9 for a metal corrugated roof. This was attributed to the extreme high intensities the pressurized simulator was giving, as well as the small scale of the roof and the lack of any environmental factors influencing the results. This leads me to one of my recommendations of full scale in the field testing to allow the environment to play its role. Overall, the simulator was successful in determining roof runoff coefficients. However, the intensities were still very high. I would like to see what happens in the extreme low intensities, and this prompts the use of an alternative method of rainfall simulation, being a non-pressurized drop-forming system, which I'm currently pursuing in my master studies currently, and field testing. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to any questions.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And something I just noted here was that Rachel's actually the only female presenter today, so I appreciate the live. Yeah, so at this time, the floor is now open for questions. Anybody have a question? While you guys think, I had a question myself, because I was just wondering, how did you come up with it, especially the flour with the raindrops, like to determine the size of a raindrop by putting a bucket of flour and then the drop becomes the flour? How did you come up with that? Is it in literature already, or did you just decide that that's what we're doing?
So the question was, how did I come up with the flour pellet method? I would absolutely love to take credit for that, but unfortunately not. No. That is one of the oldest methods in the book to calculate the diameter of raindrops. I think the first time it was used was in the 1960s. It's generally for obviously soil erosion, things where you can see rainfall simulation in general, but it's obviously a very backwards method. There are definitely other methods available now, but due to budget constraints, I don't have quite the high-speed camera I needed for the raindrops. So there's definitely some more advanced methods using advanced technologies, which I'm now pursuing in my master's studies. But yeah, can't take credit for that one, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Not how do you apply this research?
Yes, okay, so the question was, where does this basically fit into the broader industry perspective? So we all know that South Africa has a lot of water scarcity issues. We've all seen it, we've all experienced it. And this turns us towards trying to find sustainable water supply solutions. And rainwater harvesting is one of those solutions. But in order to rely on rainwater harvesting as an effective water supply system, we need to be able to estimate accurately how much rainwater we can actually harvest. And this, I believe, involves selecting a representative runoff coefficient. At the moment, we only have roof runoff coefficients for different material types, neglecting any other factors. So I definitely believe my research is able to refine these runoff coefficients, not only based on the roof, but based on regional rainfall patterns. There has been some research showing that, in Gauteng, where we have these hard cloud bursts, and in Cape Town that have long periods of short rainfall, the high intensity rainfall events are using higher coefficients in their monthly sort of time steps. So I definitely believe that is where this research fits in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Very well informative presentation. I've noticed some of the variables that you use is obviously your size, intensity, and duration, and your solution. Is there any particular reason why the effects of wind wasn't included?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so the question was, why did I neglect wind, basically? So we just wanted, for this experiment, I just wanted to isolate rainfall intensity and duration as variables. So that made me move my simulation indoors to neglect all those other factors. That's why I believe the full scale in the field testing is where we will get representative results that we can actually apply in practice. So for my master's studies as well, now we are going to move out of the laboratory and also go out into the field to actually get all the properties and not just rainfall intensity. Okay, thank you.
Particular reason why you use the area of 1.5?
So when I initially, the question was, why did I only have a 1.5 by 1.5 initial area? So when I got the nozzles to begin with, the nozzles were donated by Monitor Engineering, and the nozzles that they provided me with, I actually got two sets. First set, they were standard angle nozzles. The spray area was much too small to get any actual roof size in there. So I requested a few more. Luckily, they agreed and gave me some wide angle nozzles. So the wide angle nozzles were the ones that I used. And the initial area was just, the rainfall area that it was actually reaching was not much greater than 1.5 by 1.5. And even then, I had to scale my roof down. As you saw in the uniformity testing, I had to scale it down to remain in a uniform area. So that's why in my master's studies, the different alternative method of rainfall simulation, it's a drop forming simulation system that uses a whole grid of drop formers, enabling us to go as big as we want and as high as we want. So it's just ironing out all these little limitations in this investigation. Thank you. Yes.
So how did you account for unsteady flow transitions, especially when the slope changes in the calculations of runoff coefficients?
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
How did you account for unsteady flow transitions, especially when the slope changes in the roof, in your runoff calculations?
So the question was, how did I account for unsteady flow transitions over the roof? So that was not considered. The flow was definitely controlled by we had a pressure reducing valve in the system and a pressure gauge to monitor the pressure coming through the system to ensure that the flow was the same each time. But when it comes to what happens with the rain on the roof, that neglected completely, because in the real world, we don't have much control. The rain is going to hit the roof however it wants. So that's what I replicated here. But thank you for your question.
Thank you. We'll take one more question before we proceed. If anybody has a question.
Yes.
There seems to be an outlier on one of the graphs. The test that
Yes.
you did, do you have any reason or any idea as to why
So that 2-minute duration result really baffled me, I must be honest. I cannot give a definitive answer for why that is so low and why it didn't fit the trend of the others. In my opinion, and what I expected was actually that this green line would have been what I expected the results to actually look like. So these are the results that actually baffled me more. So due to time constraints and for future reference, I think I should have rather gone back and redone those tests to see where that would have maybe gone. And I think what to take from a general perspective of these results, from a broad scale, of course, the trend is somewhat increasing, and that is what we wanted to take away from it, is that it's a generally increasing trend. For higher intensities, you've got higher coefficients. And also to take note of this scale here, 0.8 to 1. These little variations here are also between 0.95 and 1. It's a very zoomed in kind of graph, but of course, this result is much lower than the rest. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Rachel.
you.
Can you give her another round of applause? All right, everyone. Now we'll be presenting our next speaker today will be Mohammed Aziz from the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammed, and it is my honor to present my undergraduate dissertation research to you today. The general topic that I was assigned was biofilm control in water supply pipes, but after some fine-tuning, I came up with optimizing the silver nanoparticle concentration in cement mortar linings of water supply pipes for biofilm control and leaching management. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, so let's get right into it. Now, because biofilm is not typically taught at undergraduate level, I had 3 main questions coming into this as a fourth-year student, and that was, firstly, what even is biofilm? Why is it important to me as a civil engineer? And what are the current trends in this field of research? So biofilm is typically a collection of microbes, most commonly bacteria, that are able to adhere to a surface and form layers. And one such surface that this can adhere to is the inner surface of a water supply pipe. And once this happens, it is able to increase the roughness of the pipe, it increases pipe friction, and increases head loss. It also increases the rate of pipe corrosion and impacts water quality. In fact, between initial treatment of water from source and consumption of water by end users, biofilms in our water distribution system is the main cause of water quality degradation. The main shift of research recently has been towards alternative disinfectants and alternative antimicrobial agents, which is why I wanted to investigate a modification to the conventional cement mortar lining that is commonly found in steel water pipes. As civil engineers, we also know that we can't just add whatever we want into our water distribution systems. Nothing we add should worsen water quality. So I also wanted to investigate the extent of silver leaching out of cement mortar linings, and also the main method currently in research of choosing concentrations of silver nanoparticles to use and to test is a trial and error method, which I don't think is too practical. So I also wanted to derive an optimal concentration of silver nanoparticles that should be used in cement mortar linings. Also, part of my background research, just a bit of microbiology, is I wanted to understand how exactly do these silver nanoparticles work against biofilm cells. So silver nanoparticles, firstly, they are able to adhere to essential proteins found in bacterial cell walls. This increases the permeability of the cell wall and allows cellular content to leak out of the cell, and this essentially kills the cell. They are also able to denature DNA and RNA of bacterial cells, which prevents cell replication. And finally, because nanoparticles are still physical particles of silver, they also have a physical mechanism of action where they're able to physically attack and damage a bacterial cell. Jumping straight into my methodology, the first phase was the preparation phase, which had a fair amount of chemistry involved. I first selected the concentrations of silver nanoparticles that I wanted to test. and then went on to synthesizing these concentrations using the complexing agent method, which made use of silver nitrate, citric acid, and sodium hydroxide. I then created different batches of cement mortar coupons to represent the inner lining of a water pipe. Each batch had a different concentration of silver nanoparticles included in it, with the fourth batch having no nanoparticles acting as a control group. The second phase was my data collection phase. This began with first submerging my coupons in a Perspex tank with the continuous circulation of water. Coupons were removed from the tank on days 3, 7, 10, and 14, and stored in a fixative solution to prevent any further biofilm growth. Finally, every coupon then underwent a microscopic analysis. This included a scanning electron microscope imaging, which gives you an image of the surface of the sample, and an energy dispersive X-ray analysis, or an EDX analysis, which tells you the elemental composition of the sample. Moving on to my results, the first set of my results has to do with biofilm coverage for the different batches of coupons that I had. And from here, I was able to first clearly see that those cement mortar coupons that had silver nanoparticles showed a clear reduction in biofilm growth when compared to the control group. I then converted this biofilm coverage into a biofilm control percentage and performed a predictive analysis on these results just to look at any trends in the data. What was found is that for higher concentrations of silver nanoparticles, the biofilm control was higher, which is what was expected, but also the predictive analysis told us that this biofilm control effect is not a permanent effect, it does decrease with time. I then wanted to move on to identifying any leaching that takes place, and I did this by analyzing the EDX analysis of each sample. And what was found is that silver does leach out of the cement mortar lining, and I looked at this by looking at there was a steady decrease in the silver content for each sample. Something else that was noticed here was that between day 0 and day 3 is when it became more gradual as time moved on. Other studies also confirmed this, and a simple explanation was that this initial burst of particles, as it was referred to, is due to those particles that are very close to the coupon surface or a bit loosely attached in the cement matrix being able to leach out a bit more easily. After confirming that leaching did occur, I wanted to look at any possible effects of this leaching on overall water quality. And I did this by looking at the leaching rate of silver and the flow rate of water into my tank. The World Health Organization recommends a 0.1 milligram per liter threshold for the concentration of silver in drinking water. And for my experiments, it was found that the concentration of leached silver was much below these limits, as you can see in the far right column. I was therefore able to conclude that for small initial concentrations of silver nanoparticles, the effect on water quality is marginal. To conclude my research, I then derived an efficiency index to determine the optimal concentration of silver to use. Since this concentration is that concentration that maximizes biofilm control while minimizing leaching, I used a simple efficiency equation, which was biofilm control divided by the percent of silver leached. Both of these equations were modeled empirically from my results. To conclude my research and my presentation, I was able to plot an efficiency curve, which shows the efficiency of different silver nanoparticle concentrations. As it can be seen that from about 16 milligrams to 31 milligrams, the efficiency increases and thereafter begins to decrease. This observation was made because at 31 milligrams, my biofilm control equation gave a theoretical biofilm control percentage of 100%. So from 31 milligrams onwards, the theoretical biofilm control is at 100%. But also as the concentration increases, the leaching also increases, which in turn decreases the overall efficiency. So the optimal concentration of silver nanoparticles to use was concluded to be approximately 31 milligrams per 25 milliliters of water solution. Thank you. That is the end of my presentation. I try to be as brief as possible, so if you have any questions, please feel free. Thank you.
I suppose he's already introduced the question, so.
That
Okay.
The reason why I'm asking is because I heard you talking about iron pipes early in the presentation.
Okay.
And a lot of our distribution networks are not made of those.
Okay. So the question is, would the material of the pipe affect the lining of the pipe with silver nanoparticles? So I looked at specifically steel pipes because these are the pipes that have cement mortar linings. I think a lot of the old pipes are pipes that are made out of steel and have these linings. But yes, there's a lot of newer pipes that is like, for example, polyethylene pipes that are much more resistant to biofilm. But I think my research focused more on how can we rehabilitate these old pipes that we're not looking at changing anytime in the future. So by adding a coating of silver nanoparticles, we can then prevent further biofilm from developing in those same pipes instead of changing the entire pipeline.
Any other questions?
Can I just check, you also consider the difference, because I know silver nanoparticles can also be used as like a water disinfectant.
Yes.
Do you make comparisons with the existing disinfectants like the normal one, like the chlorine?
Okay.
Okay,
so the question was, did I look at any current disinfectants that were being used and compare it to the silver? So I think the main disinfectant that's currently being used is chlorine. So I actually looked at it in a bit of my literature review. So chlorine it's being used currently, but there are some side effects of using it. So there's something called disinfection byproducts that are produced by chlorine. And these basically, they're a bit harmful to humans and any creatures that consume it. So a bit of a way to combat that was the use of chloramine. But again, I think the shift was looking at alternative disinfectants because yes, we can use chloramine, but chloramine is just a slower version of chlorine. So it's still going to release those disinfection byproducts, but just over a longer time. So I think I wanted to look at a new disinfectant to see how would that affect biofilm. Also, one more thing with chlorine, I think the other issue with chlorine was that there was something called residual disinfectant levels. So again, there's other waste products in our water sometimes. So chlorine is used to combat that. So if we were to use chlorine to also combat biofilm growth, there's a question of would there be enough left to get rid of those initial waste products that are in our water. So we also don't want to increase the chlorine level too much because then we're just looking at decreasing our water quality further. So the question is, did I look at the overall effect of silver on killing any bacteria in the water? Okay. So yeah, silver has been used for centuries as a disinfectant. I mean, even I think in the Apollo space missions, it was used to disinfect water. So I think for my experiments, I focused more on using silver to combat biofilm growth and not really looking at it as in terms of treating water as a whole. So it would be because it's not being added to the water directly, it's being applied to the pipe surface. Because again, we're trying to combat the biofilm growth that takes place on the pipe surface. So I didn't really look at how silver nanoparticles would affect the bacteria in the water itself.
Thank you. Can we have another question?
Just a question. I didn't get this one from the beginning. Are you looking at rehabilitating old pipes, or you're looking at this approach as an add-on onto new pipes?
Okay. So the question is, am I looking at this as a way to rehabilitate old water pipes or as a way to prevent biofilm growth in new water pipes? So again, because this is focused specifically on steel water pipes with cement mortar linings, I think a lot of old pipes are made of steel with those cement mortar linings. So it definitely is a way to rehabilitate old water pipes. For example, if a steel water pipe has biofilm growth on it already, it can be cleaned out and this silver nanoparticle lining can be applied to it to prevent further growth. When it comes to looking at new pipes, a lot of new pipes are not really made of steel. So there's a lot of polyethylene and other types of materials that are being used. But again, in South Africa, where I think a lot of older pipes are made of steel, and where we're not really looking at changing all those pipes at once, I think this could be a method of rehabilitating those pipes.
All right, so thank you very much. That was a great presentation. All right, guys, so thank you very much. Now we're on to our final presentation of today. And I must say, so far, things are looking amazing. This is very innovative stuff. And yeah, let's welcome from the University of Cape Town, Reyaz Martin. Reyaz Martin, please welcome to the stage.
Good day, everyone. Good day, judges and audience. My name is Reyaz Martin, and I'm really excited to be presenting my research which explored the potential of nutrient trading from source-separated urine. This is a really innovative and unique topic in the field of wastewater recycling, and I hope you find it just as interesting as I do. As humans, we are increasing the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus released into the environment. These nutrients negatively impact water quality, which has a number of environmental, social, and economic impacts. One of the ways that nutrients end up here is from wastewater, which is often released without being treated. And in South Africa, this is a major issue, where 66% of our treatment plants at the risk of either discharging partially treated or untreated wastewater directly into water systems. So it's really important for us, especially as civil engineers, to think of innovative ways of how we can manage the amount of nutrients we're releasing into the environment. Something that could help us to achieve this is nutrient trading. Essentially, how nutrient trading works is that entities or sources of nutrients that reduce their contributions to nutrient loads, they generate credits. They then sell these credits to other entities who want to offset their own contributions to nutrient loads. And through this collaborative effort, you help to fund these interventions. Now, you may be asking yourself, where does urine come in? Well, human urine contributes almost 80% of the nitrogen load and 50% of the phosphorus load in our wastewater. So if we separated urine at the source, recover those nutrients, for example, to produce fertilizer, we would be offsetting a significant amount of nutrients from entering wastewater streams and potentially polluting the environment. This is where this innovative concept of nutrient trading from source-separated urine comes in. This is just an overview of how the source separation and nutrient recovery process works. So you get special toilets that can separate urine separately. They can then undergo different treatment processes which concentrate the urine into a sustainable fertilizer product. The fertilizer can then be sold as a source of revenue. My research focused on reverse osmosis as a treatment process, and we actually have a full-scale treatment plant that we are using at the University of Cape Town. This is just a visual of what this looks like on the building level, and I basically wanted to know, could we incorporate nutrient trading into this process, and what would that look like? So imagine we had an office building. They've implemented some sort of source separation and nutrient recovery system. Could they then trade those nutrients that they are offsetting with other buildings and other companies who want to offset their own contributions to nutrient loads in line with sustainability goals or environmental reporting, for example? Some of the questions on my research were, how many nutrient credits could these buildings generate? What could the price of credits be? And then finally, what is the added economic value of incorporating nutrient trading? To answer these questions, I modeled a nutrient trading system involving different buildings of different sizes. So I looked at 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 person buildings just to understand different scales of operation. Essentially, the buildings that separate urine and treat it to produce fertilizer, they generate offset credits which are then sold to other buildings. So I quantified the number of credits that could be generated based on the amount of urine that we could collect and the percentage of nitrogen and phosphorus that can be recovered by the treatment process. I quantified 1 Newton credit as 1 kilogram of nutrients. So for every kilogram of nitrogen and phosphorus that you recover as fertilizer, you generate 1 Newton credit. In terms of credit prices, I looked at the operating costs of generating these credits, and I used this as to develop an approach for how credits could be potentially priced. I then also did an economic analysis to understand the capital investment that would be required, the revenue that could be generated from fertilizer, and as well as the added revenue from selling credits. This is just a picture of the treatment plant that we have at the University of Cape Town, which I used for parts of my analysis. In terms of the findings, this is the number of credits I found different building sizes could generate per year. I found that the credit price range of 130 to 190 rand per credit is viable. And finally, Newton trading could make these investments into source separation and Newton recovery processes more economically feasible. And through this, we could meet our collective sustainability goals regarding Newton pollution from wastewater. In the time I have, I just want to do a bit of a deep dive on this third point to show you what some of my analysis looked like. So in this graph, I'm showing the net income that can be earned for urine fertilizer production for the 3 building sizes and at different credit prices. What I like about this graph is you can see over here on the y-axis where you're not selling any credits, that represents a scenario without Newton trading. So you can compare urine fertilizer production with and without Newton trading. Interestingly, what I found, if you look at a 1,000 person building, without Newton trading, you would not be able to make a profit from selling fertilizer alone. So incorporating Newton trading could make this an economically feasible investment. In terms of the bigger building sizes, you could multiply your profits. So let's say a credit price of 100 rand for a 3,000 person building, they could increase their profits of urine to fertilizer production by 48%, highlighting how this could attract investment into these systems. In terms of recommendations for future research, it would be to establish and test the market for Newton trading, investigate potential trade regulators, and then exploring additional sites for source separation, such as universities and shopping centers, etc. And the image I want to leave you with, kind of this visual over here, is I want you to picture source separation and Newton recovery at scale. And the question I want to leave you with is, could Newton trading help us to achieve this and move towards a more sustainable future? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. So now as we proceed, does anybody else have questions? We'll start with you, Victor.
You believe a retrofit or a new infrastructure, does that make a difference in the value of the credits?
Yeah, so the question was, depending if it's retrofitted, so maybe for the existing buildings, or comparing to new buildings, does it make an impact on the credits that can be generated? So I'm glad you asked that because my research only considered existing buildings. So for this, I considered retrofitting costs and installing new urinals. If it was a new building, one of the limitations of that is that you can potentially only collect urine from, let's say, male users who use the urinals. If it's a new building, you could also look at urine diverting toilets, which could accommodate female workers as well. So in this case, there would be higher initial costs because of the piping systems is more complicated, but you could collect essentially double the amount of urine and generate double the amount of credits and therefore sell more. I hope that answers.
On my side, I was just going to ask, have you considered now that we are thinking about the separation, there is existing infrastructure in terms of the sewer systems that are designed for effluent that actually contains urine and oil.
Yeah.
So with this change, have you considered how it affects the existing stuff? Because we can have yours at a big scale and then it creates problems at our existing.
So problems in, okay, sorry, so the question is, could this, of separating at the source, create issues in the major piping systems?
Yes.
So it wouldn't, so urine contributes a very small percentage of the volume. So it's only 1% of the volume of wastewater, but it's most of the nutrients. So in terms of the loads that your wastewater systems are designed for, it's not going to impact that, but we're removing most of the nutrients in this very highly concentrated source of nutrients.
Do you have any yes or no?
if there's any water practitioner or water manager who will tell you that osmosis, the only reason why it's a very effective method of removing nutrients from the water.
Yeah.
But it tends to be expensive, right? And that's why cities like Cape Town, it has taken them to probably, I'm not sure if I stand to be corrected, but I don't think they've established yet any desalination plant.
Yeah, they do.
If they do have,
yeah.
because it needs a lot of energy to use. So if you look at the cost of the energy of using reverse osmosis versus the agricultural input in terms of the fertilizers that you are getting,
Yeah.
and is it still a solution that you still wanna
Yeah.
develop further, or?
Okay, so the question is around concerns about the cost and energy consumption of using reverse osmosis. So first thing is, if we're thinking scale and wanting to commercialize this, reverse osmosis is a good option. It is currently being used for saltwater desalination, so there is commercial viability. Then, comparing the different treatment processes that's available, you'll see over here, so reverse osmosis is the most energy efficient. Right, so in terms of the energy cost, it's actually going to give you the lowest energy costs out of the available treatment options. You can see it over here. RO, that's reverse osmosis. So it's actually the most energy efficient treatment process.
Thank you. And then we had a question from Sunil first.
I know you've concentrated a lot on the building more urban environment.
Yeah.
Whether it's a question or just a suggestion, would you ever look at operating in a mining environment where you
Yeah.
have a huge number of employees, 3 shifts, and also at airports?
Yeah. So the question, okay. Yeah. So the question is looking at different sites for where we can collect urine, stuff like mining, for example. So my research, obviously, it was important to set the scope at the beginning. So the focus was to be on buildings, because it's trying to also support previous research we've done at UCT, which is focusing at the moment on the building level. But as I mentioned in the last point for my recommendation, to explore additional sites. Obviously, with mining, it becomes a logistical issue about how we actually collect it and distribute it. And the nice thing about buildings is, let's say we were doing it from multiple buildings, we could have a centralized distribution center where we're collecting urine from all these buildings that are within close proximity, and we have a decentralized treatment facility within that same area. Whereas mining, it's obviously, the mines will be in more remote locations. So it's about how do we transport that eventually, if you want to use it as a fertilizer product, how do we transport it to the sites where we're actually going to use the fertilizer? Yeah.
So, given South Africa's existing infrastructure, given South Africa's existing sanitation infrastructure and public acceptance challenges, how do you propose to scale it up beyond small pilot projects while ensuring cost effectiveness, health and safety standards compliance, and
Yeah.
public acceptance?
Okay, so the question is around scaling this up in terms of public acceptance as well as the condition of existing infrastructure. So part of my analysis, you'll see I did investigate different building sizes. What you'll notice is that as you increase the scale of operation, it becomes more economically feasible. So the initial capital investment becomes more distributed since you're generating more credits. And then in terms of, and I actually modeled a potential, let me show you actually. This is one that I modeled like in the Cape Town CBD using that same treatment plant. So in fact, if you scaled it up to this case, instead of doing it per building, if you scaled it up to, let's say, if it's a case of 10 buildings, it actually becomes more economically feasible. And in terms of like user acceptance, there's been lots of studies that have been carried out, finding that the results are positive in terms of acceptance for using waterless urinals. And then there is some hesitance, obviously, from female users amongst using unisex urinals, but that, like I mentioned, can be accommodated by having toilets which separate the urine separately. So you're trying not to adjust people's habits or bathroom behaviors too much, but there seems to be a general acceptance based on previous studies that there will be a higher user acceptance.
So this will be more applicable to an urban area than more rural area?
Yeah, this is more applicable to an urban area. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I can take a final question before we proceed. All right, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you very much, Mr. Martin. Yes, okay, guys. So now from this point on, we're going to give the judges a few minutes to deliberate. we'll cap it at 15, but as soon as you guys are ready, you can just let us know. So yeah, while we wait for the judges to deliberate. Sorry? Yeah, so while we wait for the judges to deliberate. Sorry, guys. While we wait for the judges to deliberate, I think we'll put some questions out from the presentations just to see if everyone was focused. So I would like the presenters to actually come up and help me develop these questions, and then you guys can ask questions like a key takeaway that we can ask if the audience caught it. And if they didn't, we'll be able to just share it with them while the judges do their thing. So you guys can all just come up, and then we can have a chat. Do you have your questions ready? Yes, ma'am. I don't know.
What nutrient trading is or how it works? You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. So the question is, can anyone explain to me in simple terms what nutrient trading is or how it works?
The taxman gives you money, something like that, or some sort of like permit.
That's close enough, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so my question, seeing as there's so many Wits students here, I did a lot of effort finding a relevant quote from a Wits professor, and it wasn't very difficult because it's a very relevant quote. Now, can any of you tell me who the professor was that I quoted in my presentation? You already answered a question. So I'm going to give the opportunity to someone else. Yeah. Can some of the students help me here? Yeah, sure. Yes, correct. It's Professor Stephen Clark.
Okay, I have a bit of a question. Seeing as we're all, or mostly all engineers, or engineers in training in this room, my question is not going to focus on engineering. In the beginning of my presentation, I spoke about how silver nanoparticles affect biofilm cells from a point of microbiology. Does anyone remember what I mentioned there? Behind affect biofilm cells. Does anyone remember what I spoke about there? Okay, I don't think anyone remembers. Should I enlighten you all again about it? Okay, so essentially it makes the cell wall, bacterial cell wall more permeable, and this makes the content of the cell leak out and it kills the cell.
My question should be easy, I hope. I looked at 3 things to make sure that my rainfall simulator was working like a proper rainfall simulator. Can anyone tell me what those 3 things were? There were 3. Or multiple people, whoever can name something. Yeah? So that's one. Intensity was the other one. Yeah? Well, I looked at runoff, yes, for the whole thing, but the 3 things, excluding the runoff part, was just the simulator, yeah? No, well, I did consider pressure for intensity, but it wasn't one of the 3 factors I needed to make sure I was replicating. Anyone remember the flower? Yes? Sorry? Nozzle size was related to intensity, yeah? Drop size is the 3rd one, yes, so we're missing the 2nd one. Uniformity, yes, thank you.
But not wood chips instead. For our research, we found that wood chips perform better than sewage sludge in all temperatures for burning.
I think it's because we are also solving a wastewater treatment plant problem, and sewage sludge is the problem at wastewater treatment plants.
It's cheating.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cheating. He did a similar research. That's why he killed it. He's cheating. Repeat the answer.
So the answer is, using sewage sludge, it does decrease the emissions from ESCOM, but it also solves the problems from treatment plants of sewage sludge disposal. So it solves 2 problems at once.
Okay, my question will be if there's any if your soil conditions are dolomitic, what type of foundation would you use in a building? And one of them. That could be one of them, yes.
And I think from my side, just to add on to that question, what's the idea behind using raw foundations in dolomitic areas? Like, what's the goal of having it as a rock? Wait, sorry.
The name raft comes from the word floating. So if ever like you have to build a foundation, in the dolomitic environment, it means that whenever the rocks are exposed to rainy seasons, moisture, it means that over time, that foundation will depreciate due to erosion. So in other sense, in other words, using a rough foundation helps your foundation to float in some instances, if ever like the soil has to erode.
So what did you say on that answer? Was that
It's almost there.
Almost. So what's the answer? Could you just? Oh,
So
does
your
anyone
rough
else have a? Does anyone else have a theory? Okay, yeah. So could you just?
So
enlighten?
dolomitic soil usually has a low bearing capacity, and for that reason, you want your load to be distributed evenly. And in that instance, we use a raw foundation, usually with ground beams, to distribute the load across the soil.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So do you guys have any other questions you'd like to ask before I go check on the judges?
Let's check the judges.
I'll check on the judges. Ask while I check.
Nah, it's fine. Let them talk. Engage. Tired of spinning the slides.
Yeah, so the judges have deliberated, and while they finalize the certificates, I'll just give an answer to that question, that follow-up question that I asked in terms of the raw foundations, where, for one, yes, even pressure distribution was one of the reasons that we use raw foundations in dolomitic areas. But then also, rafts tend to form sinkholes, you see. So then the idea is that rafts will form holes under your building. I mean, not rafts, dolomitic areas have sinkholes under your building. So now the rafts that can just form under the building. Whereas if you had a pad, the whole pad could sink into the hole. But now with the raft, it can kind of just balance that out and distribute the pressure. So yeah, that was a good one. All right. Yeah, so as we go into questions, can I please have the SAICE president and CEO to join me on stage, because they'll be helping me give these out. And I'll put you guys on the spot while our certificates are being generated. Why not? Yeah, I know you can just start speaking. I won't even tell you. Just speak. Yeah. No problem. Still waiting for certificates, so if you want to say anything, you're good. Yeah. Yes, you can. Now making you stand. Now making you stand. Yeah. They will. Call them each as.
Yes, guys, so how it's going to work is that, so as we call out the prize, we'll go from number 3 to number 1. We'll also ask the sponsors of each of the prizes to just come up and help us present those prizes. And then we'll get here, we'll present the prizes, and then from here, can you just go outside for a quick photo op, and then you just come back, and it won't take more than a minute, actually. It's literally a walk out. So you come here, get a picture here, and then go out and get a picture. Yeah, it's 2025, so if it didn't get taken on a picture, it didn't happen. Okay, so for position number 3, can we please get a drum? Oh, before we get the drum roll, can we please call up Spraylock, our representative from Spraylock, because they sponsored the 3rd place prize? Could they please come up and help us present the prize? Coming from the top, give them a round of applause. Thank you very much, sir.
How are you?
I'm enjoying our...
Thank you.
You're not meant to give him the prize.
Hello.
You're not meant to give him the...
Could you put the number 2?
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Abraham, write quickly. On your phone.
No one wrote it down?
I did. It's on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'll tell me each.
Abraham, number 3.
From?
Stellenbosch.
From where? Upstairs, okay.
Number 3. Rias Martin. UCT. Yeah.
I was speaking with no results. I thought I was just going to feel it myself, but they said I have to listen to the judges. So our 3rd place prize, can we please get a bit of a drum roll? We'll be calling Abraham from Stellenbosch University. Well done. Take one here and then go outside for one. You guys can also join for the photo. You'll go out and come back here.
Okay, you good, right?
I'm good, yeah. For the 2nd place prize, could I please call our representative from GeoBrug to please come up and share the stage with us? Thank you very much. And in 2nd place, we can have another drum roll. We have Mr. Riaz Martin from UCT. Well done, Riaz.
I didn't realize our technicians out there as well.
Getting those steps in, guys. Getting around. Getting those steps in. Let's go. All right, guys, and finally, for the first place prize, could I call up our representative from BVI to please help us present this award? Thank you. So now for this one, guys, for the final drum roll, could we bring the house down with this one because it is the last. So in first place, we have the only female in the room, only female presenting, Rachel Van Zyl from the University of Pretoria.
What's it doing then?
I'll mention photo up in food prior to this. I was saying, I promise it's not because I'm also from UP. I had no part in the judging process. I was not there. I was not there. But yes, guys, so before I finish my role and bring the stage to our CEO, I just like to remind you that we have food that's going to be served in the Hillman building. I'm not sure which direction that is. The Wits guys will direct us. Yes. Prof is going to take us. Yeah, so we'll have food. Listen. Sorry, guys. So we'll have food presented in the Hillman building, and then we're also going to do a photo op outside with everyone. So could we just meet outside? So after the CEO has spoken, can we just go outside and have a bit of take a photo with everyone, just a group photo, and then we'll head to the Hillman building. So, Madam CEO, I'd like to introduce you to the stage. Madam CEO, I'd like to introduce you to the stage to please just give us final remarks and yeah, just let us hear what you have to say. Give her a round of applause, everyone. You have a mic? Is it fine? I don't think it's fine. It has to be like really close. Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will have to really project so that everyone can hear me. But today we witnessed the passion, innovation, and brilliance of the next generation of civil engineers. And I have no doubt that the future of our industry is in great hands. I also want to congratulate all the three winners and great effort across the board from everyone. We're all winners. At this time, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this event a success. We were awed by our contestants, Abraham from Stellenbosch, Yusef from UJ, Monty and Bandile from Wits, Rachel from UP, Mohammed from UKZN, and Rayaz from my alma mater, UCT. First and foremost, a big thank you to all our sponsors whose generous contributions have made it possible to celebrate and reward excellence today. BVI Engineers for sponsoring the First Prize Award. This is the 4th year that BVI has been sponsoring us at the IP Showdown. Primala, we are really yeah, we're really honored and grateful and encouraged at your commitment to encourage young engineers to push, the boundaries of innovation. To GeoBrug South Africa for sponsoring the second prize award. Your commitment to the growth of the profession is truly appreciated. And to Spraylog, over there at the back, for sponsoring the third prize award. Thank you for investing in the future of civil engineering and supporting this initiative. A special thank you to Wits University, represented by the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering, for graciously hosting us today. Your hospitality and commitment to fostering engineering excellence have made this event possible. The acting head of school, Prof. John, together with Heidi, we thank you for opening your doors to host this event. Prof. Adesola and other academics within WITS, you're very supportive always of the work that we do at SAICE. Lerato and the WITS student chapter, we will continue working with you in 2025 to shape the future of our civil engineers here at this campus. A huge thank you to the Master of Ceremony, Victor Chibaya, who's also the chairperson of the Future Leaders panel at SAICE. You brought energy, enthusiasm, professionalism, and a whole lot of intelligent questions as well to the event, which made it engaging and seamless. Victor, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President, for starting off our event with some inspirational words. I hope the students and recent graduates gathered here have heard your plea to endeavor to be the best civil engineers that can serve our industry with diligence. We also learned a lot from you, Mr. President, which is always to be prepared with Plan A and Plan B, just in case your presentation gets lost in the mix. And thanks also for assisting with the nomination of the judges here today. We are deeply grateful to our esteemed judges, to Neil from To Infinity, who's also director of our PTY Limited company, Helmut from ACOM, who is also our Pretoria branch chairperson, Nokobo from Hedge, our chairperson of membership at SAICE, Andile from Avena, who's our chairperson of the project management and construction division, Dr. Ndebo, who's the HOD of UJDFC, and Victor, who is my ex-boss, you can stand up, Victor, at SMEC, and an honorary member of our transport division. Your expertise, your keen insights, and thoughtful deliberation have been invaluable in selecting today's winners. Thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and wisdom with us. To the SAICE marketing team, thank you for putting this event together, from planning to execution. There they are with their SAICE t-shirts, you won't miss them. Your hard work is not gone unnoticed, and I sincerely appreciate it. Each event, we managed to raise the standard. Finally, to everyone here today, our participants, our guests, our students, our supporters, thank you for being a part of this journey. To the parents as well, thank you as well for coming to support. Your presence and encouragement mean the world to these young engineers, and your engagement ensures the continued success of the SAICE National IP Showdown. We aim to take it to the next campus. We will make that announcement in a few months. We haven't yet decided which campus it will be. And we look forward to seeing you again next year as we continue to celebrate innovation and excellence in civil engineering. And as the MC said, please come and join us for some eats at the H6 in the Hillman building. The WIT staff will lead us there. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, guys, so we heard that long list of thank yous of everyone who helped make this event possible. So I think let's just say a big thank you to the CEO, Sekari, because no one ever thanks the person giving the final remarks. And yes, guys, so yes, guys, just as a reminder, so we're going outside for a photo op, and then we'll head to the Hillman building. So when we get there, because we are SAICE, we'll just check everyone's SAICE memberships before. I'm joking. But in the future, guys, I want to make sure is everybody here a student member of SAICE, like every student, because it is free and it's full of benefits. If you're not, please, we're here. Please sign up, and you'll be able to access these benefits. And if it was up to me, I wouldn't give you food as well. So yeah, just make sure. And then yeah, guys, everybody else, thank you for coming, and let's go photo op outside. Whoa, wait, sorry, guys, sorry. Housekeeping, please take your water bottles with you. We don't want to pick up after. Thank you. I have one here. I'll check with Sakadi. How many do we have?